Welcome, Civ fans, to our review of the June 2019 patch that will be going live soon. I'm Dennis Shirk. I'm the lead producer for the Civilization franchise. With me today is Anton Stringer, senior designer, and everybody's favorite QA lead, Carl Harrison.
Hey, everybody.
And we're going to be touching base on a wide swath of material today. I saw some comments in the chat about, I wonder how much is in the patch, if it's going to exceed what was in the video. I will tell you that eventually when you do see the patch notes, at our normal typeface, it was almost 12 pages long. So this is a robust patch. There's a lot of material going into this. So we're going to touch on a couple things. And one of the things we just wanted to start out with before we jump right in is we'll hop into World Builder just to give you a quick little, 2-minute tour and show you what's new. So one of the first things that you're going to see, which is fairly obvious, is it's on by default now, which is nice. And Carl's just going to go ahead and create a map. Preferably an empty one, and we're going to talk through just a couple of the things that you'll see. Some of the things that are under the hood that you're going to notice the first time you play it is that there's been a lot more polish, just general bug fixes, usability things going into this to make your life easier when you're designing your own maps.
Yeah.
We've also fixed a large number of irritating bugs from the last release. City-states are now going to display properly when you load into the game.
Right.
There's a lot of advanced mode bugs that were fixed so that people that were creating really complicated maps in advanced mode before won't have those same issues coming up. But Carl's just going to plop a few things down here so we can start some things. He's going to put down a huge island of mountains right in the middle just because he can. Look at that. That's a horrible start.
Beautiful.
No, that's great.
And he's going to put down some rivers. I will say one note about rivers.
That was a funny story that happened. Yeah.
Right. That got a little bit of attention when I had mentioned in the video, don't draw rivers in a loop. So we fixed that bug, and I'll give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes commentary here. We've got a couple different layers of QA here for our games at Firaxis.
We do.
Obviously, Carl is right here on the forefront. So our internal QA department at Firaxis basically is there first and foremost as the front line to smoke test the game, make sure that each morning when you come in, that things are functioning properly. In addition to that, they're giving a lot of gameplay feedback to the designers. Not so much looking at deep dives into the math. We usually leave that to 2K QA, which is that huge department out in QA in Vegas.
Right.
So those guys have a tremendously difficult task because they have to have every combination of the game running at any different time, any different set of modules,
different
modes.
parts of different hardware configurations, all that sort of stuff.
And tell us this math is correct on any one element in it. So they've got a hard job.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was with the map generation and the river loop was we sent it back and Claim fixed it. And of course, just because it's 2K QA, they said, hold my root beer, and they dove in and set about making sure that that's fixed. The bug came back, fix denied, and Ken, our engineering lead's like, that's impossible, I fixed this. And we opened the map, and they drew a river loop on every hex on the map until they found the point where it went over the edge and crashed the game.
It looked like a lace of rivers, just loops upon loops.
And it was fantastic and awesome
it was
and
great.
Hilarious all at the same time because we were like, well, we did say it was fixed, and apparently it wasn't completely fixed.
They found the case where we had messed up.
Yeah, so I always want to give kudos to those guys for actually taking the time and stressing out these systems to really allow us to make these huge patches. It can't be easy for them, especially with a patch like this, because it's just enormous. So with that, let's go ahead and have Carl save this out, and we'll jump into a game really quick to touch on some of the new other fun UI elements. And he's going to name this here something really, really creative, because Carl's a creative guy.
Odd.
And we'll jump in. So there's been a lot of UI additions as per usual in this one. One of the nice ones that the team has been talking about for quite some time is settler recommendations.
Also, you can see there's a little preview of the mini map when you're saving the map, and also when we're going to load it up in a few moments here.
Yeah. So every save has like a snapshot of your world. So if you're ever like digging through, Montezuma 1, Montezuma 10, Montezuma 15, Montezuma 20.
Which one was that again? Did I conquer that guy yet?
Yeah, there's tiny map snapshots now with every single save, with your maps, etc. So you can actually quickly review things and see what kind of awesomeness you're about to start up without having to sit there loading through save after save, finding what you were looking for.
Or trying to remember the turn number.
Yes.
Sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yep. So settler recommendations is a big deal because we felt like there wasn't enough time spent on that. We recommend a few places. They're great for growth. They're great for food. But they didn't have a whole lot of information available. Uh-oh.
It's just like, trust us. This is
That
good.
isn't wrong.
No. Carl must have done a bad map. That's all right. Let's go
Error
ahead and
strike.
just start into a regular duel game, Carl, just so we can see the seller recommendations. Pretend that that's not there. I'm waving my hands, which means it's magically fixed. So in the past, there just wasn't a lot of information with settler recommendations.
Right.
So you didn't have a whole lot of data. You'd see that the AI was saying, this is a good spot to plant down.
It's kind of a black box. You're like, is it
Right.
good because of some math behind the scenes? Is it good because it's next to something that I already have? Like,
Yeah.
what's really going on here?
And they weren't always spread apart. You might see 3 of them, and they were clustered within like 4 or 5 hexes of each other.
Right.
When I wanted to see like different parts of the map, I wanted to see if I have a whole screen full of map, where's the good places on this map? So we put together these recommendations now. We've spread them out. We've added one more, so now it shows 4. And on top of that, as Carl's going to mouse over one of them here, we can see that we're giving specific details on what makes a location good. And this is incredibly helpful now.
Yeah. So in this case, just as an example, so our advisor is telling us that there's fresh water near here. There's strong yields within the 3 tiles, so that 3 rings of the city that you'll eventually get. There's also strong yields in the inner ring, so the yields that you're going to start out with, which Carl can turn on the lens there. And I think there was a minus because there weren't a lot of resources nearby. Yeah, so not
few new resources, but that one I think is partly appearing because we don't have any resources yet, right?
Right.
We haven't made a city and acquired anything, so they wouldn't necessarily be new ones because we don't have any.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is the tile in the 3rd ring, and then this one here that it's talking about.
Yeah.
So there's some really good detailed information in these tooltips, and this is also, like you said, what the AI is using
Yep.
now.
Yeah, and interestingly, it's not recommending your starting tile. So in this case, the AI at least is saying maybe you should move 1 tile and
Right.
And that's a whole lot
settle
of
there
debate.
instead. Which
To settle or to move, we'll split the
time-honored
right down the middle.
tradition of debating. Yes.
Right.
So one of the nice things about this, as Carl just touched on, so we have the AI now evaluating these in a different way. Before, they were evaluating it primarily based on growth. And so Ed had an evil smile come up on his face and saying, what if we give the AI the ability to evaluate all of these things just like the humans? And so we decided to flip the switch and turn it on and see what happens. And it ended up with a bit more of an aggressively settling AI. And it felt really cool because they were actually forward settling into really fantastic locations that you might want for yourself, sometimes to the player's chagrin, but it actually puts a little bit more pressure on you that you can't reserve that space and expect it to be there later because they're going to have access to the same data that the human has now.
Right. And there'll still be things considering things like loyalty, like they have been doing that since Rise and Fall.
Yes.
So they're not going to forward settle if the city's just going to fall from them, but they will find those times where they can a little bit more easily, especially for a lot of these factors like new resources and evaluating the inner ring versus the 3 rings out, and not emphasizing growth so heavily as like also production and some of the other yields.
Right.
All right, well, with that, that's a quick preview of some of the new options outside of Carl's save, but he's got a save here to jump into that'll touch base on a lot of the other new things that we're talking about. Some things we just can't show you yet, but we'll talk about them because it would require us to keep reloading like 4, 5, 6, 7 saves.
Right, like there's a lot of really cool things in the early game that we'll touch on in the Canada save, but we can't show you directly. But it's because there's so many cool things in this save that we're going to show off.
Yeah. So here you can see the mini map preview, and this is the new 7 Seas map. So it gives you a general idea of what that looks like.
Is this the only new map in the...
There are 2. There's 7 Seas and then Small Continents.
That was a favorite.
It was a favorite, yeah. It's very similar to continents, but it's more land masses, but they're a little bit smaller than the original continents map. I do love the 7 Seas, though. It's a great canal map. If you like canal play, 7 Seas is the right map to play on.
Yeah.
And we have some canals under construction here that we'll be showing off.
Yeah, and you can feel like a pirate kind of sailing around and protecting your waters and finding clever ways to connect this sea to this sea and all that sort of stuff.
Now, you chose a Canada map. Have we made changes to Canada that you feel like are really going to improve the experience?
We've made a couple, which is why we're playing as Canada to show those off. And I actually have examples of that right away. So let's just do a quick overview here. This is our area. We had this really nice sort of triangular peninsula here that we started on, but there's lots of little oceans connecting, little seas, 7 of them, connecting in between here. And there's some really awesome canal spots. I haven't settled down here, but
some of the seas
here,
have names as well.
They do. So we actually have named ocean areas now, and those are named just like the mountain ranges and other geographical features that we have existing in the game. But you were asking about Canada, and down in here I have a camp. Because one of the things that we've done in Canada is we've given them +1 food on camps in tundra. And we heard the feedback that Canada needed some more food in tundra, that the farms weren't necessarily just enough to give them the edge they needed.
Especially in the early game before their other bonuses kick in.
Right, exactly. So we wanted to have another source of food. We had the +1 production on mines, so we stuck with the increased yield from improvements and gave them +1 food from camps. These camps in particular are fantastic because I don't just have the Canada bonus, but I also have the Goddess of the Hunt Pantheon on. But I'm not getting just +1 food from that Pantheon. We've done a lot of work on Pantheons with this patch.
Big rebalance, yeah.
Big rebalance. And Goddess of the Hunt now is +1 food from camps and +1 production from camps. So I'm getting 2 different things from this, and I have furs. There's a whole bunch of different places.
It's a great pick for Canada when you start in the tundra and you have a lot of camps.
Exactly.
In your corner like this.
Yeah, and we'll do some more touch on the other Pantheon changes as we continue through. The other thing that I have is lumber mills in tundra. Here we go. I was looking for them. Lumber mills in tundra for Canada are also +1 production, and the reason for that is because of the changes that we made to other production-based tile improvements. We equalized everything across the board. So lumber mills no longer give +1 production when adjacent to a river. That is just everywhere. No matter where you put the lumber mill, you will get the same production as you would from a mine.
Yeah.
And because of that, we wanted Canada's lumber mills to be the same as their tundra mines, so we gave them +1 production on those lumber mills too.
Yeah.
Let me get playing here.
So yeah, you got a great musician. You have a ton of national parks.
I do. Oh, my national parks are beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at this.
They've sort of blurred into each other.
They have. They're all connected here. I have Mount Roraima.
Yeah.
And was able to make parks all the way around that. I've got some parks down through here.
Have you mostly used your Mounties for that? Or
I have been using the Mounties. I actually have one ready to go right here. There's a park, and I'm going to join it into this one.
Great.
There we go, with a +4 era score, and I really need that because I noticed that I'm actually headed towards a dark age right now. So I'm trying to get as many.
Clock's running out.
Yeah, I'm running out of time. We've got 4 turns left, and I'm going to try to get as much era score as I can so I avoid that dark age. Yeah, gorgeous national parks. Just got this great musician. We'll go ahead and use them.
Has there been any changes in Great Works?
There have.
Yeah, and this was actually, so I kind of teased it on Twitter yesterday, but Carl, you had this idea that great works of writing earlier in the game were very powerful because it used to be for culture and for tourism.
Used to be,
yes. And now we've changed them to be to culture and to tourism.
That's
so
right.
In comparison, your great works of art and your artifacts later on in the game are going to be much more important. Now you still get, that still will double once you get to printing press.
Right.
But this was something that you had sort of thought, you know, it feels like the great works are a little bit off. Let me try this thing. And you went to the XML and you changed some of the values and you played a game. And like I
played a couple of games.
Played a couple of games. I took a lot of the data, the logs from the games and sort of compared. And I was like, you know, keeping that in my head alongside a lot of the culture tree, civics tree costs that I was considering, and we ended up really liking that change. So that's one of the differences of great works.
And it definitely helps with the accidental culture victory.
It does, yeah. It definitely helps with accidental culture victory. It slows down your tourism a little bit. You still have plenty of it. There's still plenty of sources of it, but you're not going to fall into one like you were saying from without intending to. You sort of have to work a little bit harder, not too much harder, and then you get the rock bands come online and send those out.
Much more emphasis on rock bands.
Right, exactly. So here's one of the new features that we have with this patch. You can now make lumber mills in rainforest, and there it is.
Boom.
We have a lumber mill in the rainforest there. You have to get mercantilism to unlock them. Lumber mills, I think, are a little bit earlier in the tech tree now. They unlock just a little bit faster. Yeah, but you have to get you get the improvement first for woods, and then once you get to mercantilism, the civic, you get the lumber mill in rainforest.
Yeah.
Our dedication this era is digging up artifacts, so I have an archaeologist out doing that, trying to get just that little bit of extra era score.
Mm-hmm. Lumber mills are on construction, I just checked.
Construction, so the tech construction, but for rainforest, it's mercantilism.
And what's going on out there up at the diplomacy ribbon?
Yes, let's look at this. We now have yields and military strength displayed on the ribbon. And why don't you talk a little bit about that, Anton?
Sure, yeah. So this actually, we kind of got the idea from a mod out in the community. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff that our community does with modding, in particular when the UI work. So this is something we'd seen where like, especially, at this time later in the game, we were trying to keep track of like who's winning, who's strong in what area. A lot of more advanced players really want to keep an eye on that sort of stuff. So having this, what we call diplomacy ribbon, to keep track not only of your diplomatic status like you could before, but also, what's their score, what's their military strength, what's their science per turn, what's their gold treasury looking like, giving you a bird's eye view of all of that without having to dig into the menus or go into the deal screen or any of that stuff.
Right.
And we also, we recognize that this might not be important for everybody. So in the options, you can say, hey, I always want to show this. Hey, I don't want to always show this, or only show it when I mouse over. So we got a couple options for you there. We just got the Golden Gate Bridge, which is great. It's not really there for you to get across the bay because it's pretty small, but you got it for the appeal.
I got it for the appeal because I do have 2 national parks in that city, so it's boosting those.
Yeah.
I got it for the era score. I also just did a neighborhood that was another +3
Great.
era score, so we're pushing closer here.
Yeah.
And I have this set, the diplomacy ribbon set to always show right now, but if it was on mouse over, if I they would not display, and then if I moused over the leader head, it would drop down.
Yeah.
But they are on always show right now for anyone who's wondering how that works. So we're going to go ahead and change some of our policies here because I just unlocked 2 new ones, including rabble rousing.
Yes.
And rabble rousing gives you 50% return on the favor you spend when voting to take points away from somebody. It also gives you +1 diplomatic favor per turn. So I'm going to go ahead and take that for the favor.
Carl, aren't you going for a diplomatic victory
I
this game?
am going for a diplomatic victory this game. So let's go to the world rankings and look at the diplomacy tab here. I have 17 out of 20 points.
20 is the new
20
target.
is the new target number. And you now get diplomatic victory points every time you vote for a normal resolution. That's any resolution that has an A choice and B choice.
Right.
One's the like World Games or World's Fair. Those don't count.
Yeah.
But if you win the resolution, even if it's a tie, you get a diplomatic victory point. In the cases of ties, everyone gets a point. So if you and I were to vote for the same thing and tie, we both get that point. And that counts the diplomatic victory resolution. So when you are voting to give yourself points, if you win, you get an additional point. And if you vote to take points away from somebody, you get a point for that too. And that includes when voting to take points away from yourself.
Yes.
So I have taken that policy, rabble rousing, in the anticipation that the AI might be voting against me. And
You're
so,
close to the victory there, so they're not going to be happy about it.
right,
I picture
exactly.
Carl like at the UN. They're voting him down because he did something horrible in the real world. And at the signing ceremony, he'll still show up and shake hands and smile and grin and take part, even though they're condemning him.
I'm allied with everybody in the world, I'd
fantastic
have you
plan.
know.
That's not something that I necessarily considered until you brought it up to me.
Right.
It's the sort of like World Congress humble brag. You're walking in and there's diplomatic victory on the table. You're like, no, I couldn't. No, please.
I don't want it.
I'm going to vote against myself. I'm so humble.
Right.
And meanwhile, you're voting for the other resolutions so you could get points
Right.
there.
So the possibility is if everything goes your way, you could get 0 points from a single Congress session. If you win the first 2 resolutions, they vote to take points away from you because now you get 3 points removed.
Yeah, it's a +2 or a -3.
Right. And if you vote to take points away from yourself, you will reduce that by 1, so -2. +2 from the first 2 resolutions, you can come out with 0 instead of coming out behind like it used to be. Now, it's still possible, and you'll see that I have a -1 diplomatic victory resolution on that tooltip there.
So most of your points have come from those other resolutions.
The other resolutions. But what happened in that particular one is they were voting to take points away, and I won one of the first 2 normal ones, but lost the other one.
Yeah.
So it came out as a -1 total instead of a 0.
Yeah.
What other updates have been added to World Congress, by the way?
Well, just real quick, I wanted to say that it is possible to get 5 points total since it's one for each of the first 2 resolutions, 2 for voting for yourself, and then if you win that vote for yourself, it's another 1. So a total of 5 points from that.
Which is a big swing.
Huge.
If you
It's
can
a
manage
big
that.
swing, right?
Yeah, once you stick your neck out, the AI is not going to be too happy, and they're going to start voting very aggressively against you. But there are a lot of other sources
There
too.
are. So we have up here, we have Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty now gives 4
+4, it's big.
diplomatic victory points. Potala Palace now gives +1 diplomatic victory point, and Mahabodhi Temple, which used to be +1, is now 2, exactly.
And we also got any World Congress competition will now give you victory points as well, and we got 2 of those active.
Right, so World Games used to give you no diplomatic victory point, now it gives you 1. World's Fair is the same way. Every single normal resolution, and that does not include the Sweden Nobel Prize ones.
Yeah.
I think one of those gives a diplomatic victory point, but not all 3.
Yeah.
But the others that didn't used to now gives 1.
So that explains why you're training athletes everywhere.
I'm training athletes all over the place to try to win this. And the other one, Aid Request, which used to give 1, now gives 2. And that's the case for every competition like this that used to give 1, now gives 2.
Yeah.
And I'm winning this one as well, although it's might be close. We'll see how that turns out. We have to keep an eye on it.
Oak Dragon mentions that this sounds like it could make a diplomatic victory come really quickly.
It could. It has the possibility, which is why the AI votes aggressively against it. Once they see that you're starting to push that, they will start to vote against you, and hence why I'm taking rabble rousing. But right now, I was at 17 out of 20 points. There are 3 points right here, 15 turns on World Games. We have 17 turns until the next session. Like I said, potential 5 points from that. And I still have not gotten the Tech Tree diplomatic victory point, which is another one that I could have.
So if he explores and uncovers the right tech in time, he might be able to get a point from that as well.
Right, so lots of stuff going on there. And we're gonna keep moving right along because there's just so much to cover. Industrial Zone has gotten a couple of updates here, so I'm gonna go ahead and mouse over this. It used to be that Industrial Zone got a minor adjacency bonus for mines. That was +1 per 2 mines. That now includes lumber mills.
Right.
It also gets a +2 for the aqueduct, the canal, and the dam districts.
And that represents sort of like, industrial power centers having a lot of benefit from being close to infrastructure, like being able to send their stuff everywhere. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you get +1 production per strategic resource that it's adjacent to. And that includes horses and oil. It's not just mined resources, but mined resources stack with the mine bonus.
You'll get both.
So down here, if I go to place this, I have a +3 tile here because I have uranium, which is a strategic resource for 1, iron for another 1, and then each of those have a mine for another +1 total.
So that's 3.
For +3. But I do also have a lumber mill here with a builder on the other side. We'll make a lumber mill. And now we're up to that +4.
Perfect. That's a great spot for it. The tundra industrial zones of Canada.
Yeah, and it's a tundra mine, or excuse me, tundra lumber mill. So it gets another +1 yet from that.
Yeah, definitely.
And that whole push was so that you would have more production, could build more things with the time that you had with each Tech and Civic.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that you're able to use the units that you're able to build before you move on to the next type.
Yeah, so slowing down the Tech and Civic progression a little bit and speeding up the production a little bit gives you more time to play with the things that you've just unlocked. And if you build stuff, especially buildings later on where it might be really expensive and you might only get 50 turns worth of stuff out of it. Now you'll get it faster, you'll be able to use it longer, and a lot of the buildings have been buffed as well to give more effects.
Now I just combined a normal Mountie with a core to form an army. And if I mouse over this portrait here, I'm able to see all of the different bonuses that I'm getting from those units. We've now added this to the portrait of the unit. Every time you mouse over it, it'll tell you everything that's affecting that.
Yeah.
That includes class bonuses, like this says not affected by enemy zone of control.
Because it's a cavalry.
That's cavalry. And then it also shows me my unique unit bonus of being buffed when near national parks.
Yeah.
And this shows absolutely everything. So this unit here is next to this Great General. If I mouse over here, it shows me my Great General bonus, both the combat strength and the movement.
Yeah.
And it also shows me my experience bonuses from the stable, the armory,
trained in the city with
and the military academy, exactly.
Now, the designer did want me to point out, obviously this is a huge change because it's something our fans have been wanting for a long time. So he did want to call this is first pass. There's more to come because there's so much in the game that can affect a unit standing somewhere at any given time. So stay tuned on that one. It's just going to get better.
And if y'all have feedback on, hey, I'd really like to see this thing, but it's not showing up in these situations or certain conditional bonuses, like we'd really like to hear what other things you guys want out of this UI.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work on units and making sure that those display properly and making sure that some of the bugs that used to plague the system are no longer there. For example, when you upgrade a unit to a higher tech unit, like swordsman into musketmen, any bonuses that they had, abilities that they had, now stay.
Yeah.
So for example, if you moved next to Matterhorn and you got the Alpine training to move over hills,
movement, yeah.
if you upgraded that swordsman into a musketman, that would go away, unfortunately. We fixed that. Those abilities now stay. The same is true for unique buildings like the Mongolian Ordu or the English Royal Navy Dockyard. And then also, like I was showing here, those experience buffs. Yeah, those used to disappear, and now they stick around. Furthermore, if you combine units together, all abilities get combined.
Yeah.
So they won't gain more promotions if you have 2 units with promotions.
Yeah, you can't double up on like, oh,
Right.
experience from barracks, yes, thanks.
Right. But if you have a unit that was trained like this one over here, that has no experience buff
Right.
from barracks, if I were to take that and combine it with a unit that has the buff from barracks,
A new recruit with lots of promise.
right, the new unit would gain that ability.
Yeah.
So they would keep the promotions that they have. If it had 2 promotions, it would keep those, and then the other unit that had the experience buff would pass that along. The same is true for all of those unique things like Matterhorn, Giant's Causeways, Spear of Fion, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. We've taken a look at units kind of more generally too. Like one of the things we've done is we noticed that a lot of units required niter. I think it was about 5 of them.
5 units, yeah.
Whereas horses and iron were a little bit less important. So we kind of took a look and did a lot of reshuffling of which units require which strategic resources. So it's a little bit more evenly balanced particularly between horses, iron, and niter.
Right. It's now 3 units require each of
I think
those.
for each, yes.
Yeah.
Now you'll notice in the upper right here as the turns going by, the gossip notifications.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was a big fan complaint since we released the game, that oftentimes these would cover up the entire center of the screen, especially in bigger games. The combat notifications would do the same thing. We're actually grouping them together now. So if you actually click a down arrow on there, you can actually expand it if there's enough on there on the screen to see it.
And they'll collapse.
Yeah, the combat notifications show up to the left of them. So it doesn't cover up the entire bulk screen of the game.
You can still see what's going
Combat
on.
would be
what the AI's
right here.
So this was huge for us. We really loved the way that came out. And on top of that, if you ever want to kind of visit what else you might have missed in there, you can always go to the
The gossip reports.
Which
Did
you
you
can
hear
get to like normal reports.
Yep.
And yeah, this lists everything that you've seen, and it has filters, which I love the
Filters.
filter system. You can filter by type, you can filter by person. So if I want to see everything with Gorgo, I select that and I can see all the gossip I've ever gotten from just Gorgo.
Yeah.
And this is huge. It has really helped my games, both in terms of visibility on the map and in terms of finding the information that I need when I want it.
Yeah, so that's a great new addition. Yeah, that's one of my favorites of the patch. So we
More
got 2
great people.
Yeah, that'll help raise your air score.
We're getting
So
closer.
Real quick, let's bring up that great person UI one more time, because there's a really great change in here that I want Anton to touch on, because we can see we're out of the guys right there in the middle.
Yeah, so something that we had heard from the fans that was always like, even since the vanilla Civilization 6 kind of bothered me, was when you ran out of great people, which was particularly common with prophets, like, you know, all the religions have been found in this game, you had these great people points that were kind of sticking around not doing anything. So you had, you know, your holy sites, your shrines, you know, they had great people points. They were giving you other effects as well, but it kind of felt like a loose end. So what we've done instead is that anytime you have great people points that you can't apply to something, like there's no people that you could earn, either because you're out of profits, or maybe you're at the end of the game, there's no scientists left, or you're like, you know, playing Congo and you can't get a profit, those points will be converted to faith 1-to-1. So if Carl goes over the faith per turn there, he's actually got 12 extra great people points that he's not using, so that's given him 12 extra faith per turn. So that's a really nice way to sort of like tie up the loose ends, and you know, it lets your holy sites and shrines still be really useful later in the game once you've already earned a profit, or after there's no profits left. Helps you get more rock bands and stuff like that.
Right,
so.
rock bands, buying more great people, naturalists. It's been very helpful, and gives even more reason to build a holy site if you don't have religion or aren't going for religion, because you get even higher faith yield from those buildings, like you were saying.
Right.
And then it also buffs the religious golden age, because that gives 4 great profit points. But once you've earned your great profit, that didn't used to do anything, and now you're getting +4 faith, which helps you buy missionaries and apostles,
Which you can use the bonus for.
which are buffed, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of religion, let's go back to talking about pantheons. because
Sure.
I mentioned that earlier, and I'm sure everybody's wondering what other kinds of pantheon changes we have made.
I know one of my favorites is we have a goddess of fire, new pantheon.
Right.
Themed around volcanoes and geothermal fissures. So if I'm remembering right, it's +2 faith from volcanic soil tiles and +2 faith from the fissure tiles.
Yeah, exactly. We've added that one. There's a couple we've taken away. We've removed the oral tradition pantheon, which was +1 culture from
A lot of the plantations.
a lot of plantations, about half of them. And then we had Goddess of Festivals, which was +1 food from the other half of plantations. Goddess of Festivals is still around, but now it is +1 culture instead of food. But it's for all plantations, not just half.
Yeah, we just kind of combined the effects.
Right, you no longer have to sort of look at your map and try to figure out which of the plantations are the right ones.
Was it a citrus one that was for my pantheon?
Right, now it's just all plantations and it's +1 culture instead of food.
Yeah.
And speaking of trying to look at your map while picking your pantheon, the pantheon pantheon chooser now appears as a panel on the left-hand side instead of a block in the middle of the screen.
This is one of the best changes, by the way.
It's huge.
It's small, but it's large. at the
Right,
same
and
time.
in addition to that, the text is a little bit bigger because there's more room to display them. So it's easier to see which pantheons there are, and you can see your map at the same time so that you can pick.
There's also some cool, like, I don't typically play a religion game, but I'm much more excited about the pantheons with this update now than I usually am, because even if I'm not going to, get an early prophet or an early holy site, if I get my pick of pantheons, you can get fertility rights, which will, in addition to its old effect of helping with the growth, it'll give you a free builder when you adopt it, which is just awesome. And then the religious settlements, in addition to helping your borders expand, will give you a free settler. So these are really great early game free things you can inject into your economy right away. So that's often if I'm okay, well, extra faith I don't really need because I don't think I'm going to play a religion game. Let me get a free settler right now. And somebody hasn't nabbed that up yet. That's a really fun pick.
It's huge, yeah. A couple of others have either gone away or undergone major changes. A fan favorite, Goddess of the Harvest, is now gone.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. There was a lot of discussion about what to do with that, and ultimately we decided that the best course of action would be to remove it entirely. So that source of faith economy is gone, but you do have Goddess of Fire to replace it.
Yeah.
Earth Goddess, which was +1 faith from charming and breathtaking appeal tiles, is now breathtaking only, but it is +2 faith from those tiles. God of Craftsmen, which was +1 production from strategic resource mines, is now +1 production and +1 faith from all strategic resources. So it now also includes horses and oil. So when you have all those horses around your city, if you have a horse-heavy area, you have to choose: do I do the +1 culture from plantations, or pastures, or do I do strategic resources for production and faith?
Yeah, so the general theme is making the pantheons a lot stronger, pretty much across the board. And some of that allowed us to consolidate old pantheons that, this half and this half, and let's just make it a cooler whole. And adding, the Goddess of the Fire to fit with the Gathering Storm new terrain features and stuff like that.
Exactly. So I've finished the industrial zone here. I have the workshop available.
+3 production.
+3 production.
Who did that? I did.
Anton did, yeah, it was Anton. Instead of +2, it is up to +3, so that is another part of promoting the industrial zone, promoting more production in the system, and making sure that is worth the investment of building.
That's one of the earliest buildings that got changed. Most of them are later in the game.
Right, exactly, but we did want to make sure that was there.
And I just do want to point out too, because Carl's in the production panel quite a bit these days.
Oh yes.
Is that the production queue has a lot more bug fixes.
You were just
polish,
training
up-
all the
I'm training
athletes.
tons of athletes. Yeah, let's check on that while you talk. Sorry, Dennis.
No,
Let
it's
me
all
check
good.
on
So
how we're doing
it's actually
here.
going to remember, if you have the production queue open all the time, it's going to stay open all the time. It doesn't reclose every time. A lot of little subtle updates.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
one other
very
thing I wanted to
helpful.
point out, but Carl's got it covered with all of his yields everywhere.
Yes, let me turn
scattered
that
around
off.
the map. Is we have body of water labeling in now too, from bays, oceans,
Right.
gulfs. That's another layer that we've added in, which is a really cool addition.
Definitely.
My trade routes are very good right now. I'm in.
You got alliances with
I
everybody.
have alliances with everybody, so I have the improved yields from alliances, and
Yeah.
then my policies include Whistlebankin
Yeah.
and the Democratic Legacy
There
policy
you go.
here.
Yeah.
And I do want to touch base on a few of the AI things that have been going on here too.
Yeah.
Drew spent a lot of time, especially on operations. So we've improved the city defense tree because they weren't always defending cities properly with the units that they had, how they maneuvered, where they put the units. Ranged attacks versus districts, because a lot of times, like undefended defense districts, like encampments, AI ranged units weren't doing as good as the job as they could have at attacking stuff like this. Operational movement around mountains, things like that. Diplo trading, lots of improvements there. City settling locations you already saw, so them using the 4 settling locations is really awesome. And then just a small bucket load of civilization leader tweaks to just help them play their own game better based on their abilities.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get a normal age. I'm at 270 out of 271.
So close, Carl.
I dug up
Is
an
it one
artifact.
turn left?
This is the last turn. I dug up an artifact right here that gave me one more. This builder got to this tile to make a wind farm. That'll be the first green energy thing.
Oh, so you'll get the historic moment.
So I get the historic moment for that,
But
but he's out of movement.
he's like,
I
"Oh,
don't
just
think I'm going to
wait,
be able to do it.
Oh.
So I'm going to go ahead and hit next turn, and we'll be in a dark age. Luckily, we're in an alliance with everybody, so hopefully that'll help.
Your loyalty's probably fine.
I think my loyalty's fine.
You'll probably get to take advantage of some of the new Dark Age policies.
Oh, well, she's giving me 30 favor here. I'm going to take that. That'll
you,
help with our victory.
I think the Carl's Donuts thing that the fan drew. Like she's a fan of you.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the Slack channel that's giving Carl all the face palms for not quite getting it, I do want to defend Carl a little bit because there's new Dark Age items that we want to show off. So
we may have staged this a little.
It might be staged a little bit.
I could have bought a great person. I didn't buy a great person, but I have plenty of faith.
Yes.
Yeah. Carl stuck the landing like an Olympic gymnast. He's like, I got right before.
Right, one point.
Yeah, he's just showing off. Jadwiga, yeah, okay. So we got some people feeling sad for us.
They are all sympathizing with me being in a dark age. Maybe they'll vote for me when it comes up.
We should cash in that goodwill.
We've got 14 turns until I can get 5 diplomatic victory points because I have so much favor.
You do, yeah. 47 a turn. Nice. All right, so Dark Age. So
Dark Age.
So there's the new one at the bottom there, but I don't think it'll be a good choice
Automaton Warfare.
for you.
Now, what happens if I'm in a golden age here?
So if you are in a golden age, you get a free giant death robot, even if you don't have the technology yet, which is crazy.
Which I don't.
Which you
don't.
Yeah, I think you're getting close to robotics.
Nuclear fusion, but I do not have robotics, so I don't even have one. But I'd get one for free.
Yeah, you'd have like this crazy skunkworks lab that's like, here's a giant death robot. Our time has come. It is the golden age.
Right.
So you'd get that. You would get 3 uranium per turn to help you pay for it, the maintenance,
Right.
and then all of your uranium mines would extract another uranium per turn as well.
That's awesome.
So it's all about, okay, time to go conquer the world, or defend myself.
And because I'm in an alliance with everybody, I can't, and I'm Canada, so I can't play Surprise War.
So it wouldn't actually
really help me here.
Wouldn't actually be that good for you.
Right.
Because you're everybody's friend.
Right. I am everybody's friend.
Yeah.
If that golden age ends and you have your free giant death robot, the robot does not go away.
It sticks around.
You keep the robot. You do, however, lose the extraction rate and the free uranium. So if you don't have uranium of your own, you will suddenly start burning through it.
Yeah.
And if you hit 0 on the stockpile, like normal, the GDR will take combat penalties.
The way around that is to use the GDR to conquer more uranium.
Yeah, that's
and
a good strategy. We did wish you were here for our last dedication, so we will do that again and keep extracting artifacts. But now that we are in a dark age, let's take a look at dark age policies. There's some new ones here.
There are, yeah. So we've got automated workforce, we've got flower power, and cyber warfare, and disinformation campaign. Yeah, and elite forces, I believe, was already around.
Elite forces was already there.
Yeah, so flower powers are particularly cool.
Oh, and rogue state.
Oh, rogue state, yeah. Yeah, so you actually got a lot of choices now.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, we kind of took we went back and revisited, which dedications and which Dark Age policies were happening when, especially since we've added the new future era. So we wanted to expand the options a little bit, and a lot of these Dark Age policies are specifically geared towards going for a victory. So it could actually be that, being in a Dark Age is really not that bad of a thing when you're late in the game and going for a certain victory. And you might even strategize, as Carl has kind of done, around getting one.
I'm going to take this information campaign, minus 10% science, minus 10% culture. I've already hit the end of the civic tree. I'm just doing future civic.
Yeah.
I don't really need the tech, although there is one more point in the tech tree. But I'm going to go ahead and take this for the extra 3 favor a turn. Let's do robotics. And now I am going to come down here, open the queue, come down again, and just do train athletes.
More athletes.
A side note, Anton, what have
Yes.
you done with power with this one?
So for power, Carl's just built a wind farm, so it's actually a great time to talk about it. So we've added a power lens. There it is. There are a couple different ways to get to it. The one I find most convenient is just clicking on that little button right there. It'll open up your power panel for the city and also turn on the lens. So when the lens comes on, the world goes dark. It's nighttime, so you can see, all the
things
flickering
light up.
power, things lit up. It will also color code for you, as you see here. Cities that are powered are green, and cities that do not have power are red. If there's a city that doesn't need any power, like I think the city to your east over there, Toronto,
Has no color.
doesn't have any power but doesn't need any, so it's just kind of neutral.
Right.
But yeah, so this kind of lets you see at a glance, which cities are powered, which ones are not, and also if you zoom out a lot. So first off, Carl just showed off it actually will show you the sources of power that are on the map. So the wind farm that's doing it there, there's a hydroelectric dam that's there, and then you've got this power plant, a nuclear power plant in Ottawa, that last turn spent 2 uranium to provide 17 power to its ring of cities. And you actually can see that this is actually really inefficient because it's
Right. Uh,
1 uranium for every 16, so you're just over.
Just over, yeah.
So, yeah. So if you're researching robotics, if you did want to conserve some uranium for a surprise GDR rush.
I think I'm
later-
at my cap, actually. I am.
Yeah, you are fine. You got
I have
plenty.
a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I have so much uranium available. There was some here, there was some here. I even had one down here that I didn't even mine.
Oh,
I just turned it
no.
into a national park.
We don't need it.
And as Canada, my extraction rate in tundra has increased, so
Right.
they're doing even more than usual.
So that's awesome. One more thing about the power lens I do want to show off
Yes.
is so the power plants will actually show their radius as well. So it's a little hard to see because Canada's borders are also white, but that's the radius there of you can see how far your power plant's reaching. So you can
Right.
see that it's just out of range of St. John's, just out of range of Vancouver, unfortunately. But
But it
gives
is
you
in
a-
range here.
It is in range there, yeah, and it gives you a clue of where you're covered, where you're not,
Right.
to kind of help you set up your infrastructure a little bit better.
Right, and you see that this city is not producing any of its own power, so it has no color of its own.
Right.
But the city tile is green because it is getting all the power that it needs, and it's getting that from this power producer over here. We're gonna fabricate Scandal here. There's
Yeah, somebody's
tons of
been-
envoys, 36 envoys
Tamara
there.
really wants to cobble. Yeah,
Well, I've
she's
gotten
been
to every
fun,
other
so-
city-state, so I don't blame her.
Yeah, you've been playing the diplomatic game, so. Was your goal? I guess your goal was to just get a lot of favor per turn by befriending all the city-states.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have somewhere. I have Orsgaz, I think. Where did I put it?
Too many wonders.
Too many wonders. Here's Batala Palace.
Yeah.
Here's Big Ben, Taj.
If only there was a way to search.
I
for
could
it.
search for it, but I'm having. These
Yeah.
are movement is on, so it's taking a while. There it is. It's right there.
Ah, okay, yeah,
Orsgaz.
there you go.
So I'm getting the increased favor from city-states.
Excellent.
Mitigated flood.
Yeah, I've noticed you have a lot of dams everywhere too.
Well, that wasn't even in my territory, but yeah, I do. There was a lot of floodplains. Oops, a lot of floodplains through here. So I put a dam on this river here, and then this river.
A quick note too on the, so since we just went into a dark age, we did make a little bit of tweaking. In addition to the new dedication, we made a bit of tweaking to the era score stuff as well. So this was sort of like a math design question that we had for a lot during Rise and Fall and during Gathering Storm, and we finally kind of figured out a good way to approach it. As you all know, there are different game speeds that you can do with the game. So if you're playing on a marathon map, things go much slower, things cost a lot more. The thing that doesn't change is unit movement. So everybody still has their 2 moves per turn and stuff like that. So it scales the game in a certain way, but in another way it doesn't scale the game. So the challenge there is for something like Era Score and Golden Ages, Dark Ages, Normal Ages, should it scale with game speed or should it not? Because a lot of the historic moments are stuff that you produce, stuff that does shrink or stretch. But a lot of the other things like barbarian camps, that's based on movement, which is not. So what we ended up doing was kind of going down the middle a little bit. So the era score thresholds, the amount of era score that you need to get to reach like a golden age or avoid a dark age, on slower game speeds will inflate a little bit, but not as much as like the costs of units and technologies and stuff like that. And that's all in the XML. So if modders want to take their own crack at it, then that is totally welcome as well.
Speaking of units and technologies, I think we made a couple of changes with siege support units.
We did.
The battering ram and the siege tower.
Yeah.
We made it so that the battering ram is no longer effective against medieval and Renaissance walls, and now upgrades into the siege tower, so it doesn't stick around for quite as long. And the siege tower is no longer effective against Renaissance walls. So we wanted to incentivize building those higher levels of walls a bit more. So now building them makes those units increasingly less effective.
Yeah.
And you have to rely on actual bombard units.
Yeah, catapults and bombards and stuff like that. So that really changes up how city sieges play out.
Right.
And we think it's been a really positive change.
Yeah.
So cool, now Sherbrooke has full power. That's nice.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there were also some movement increases for higher level units. The Mobile
some
SAM, rocket artillery.
And the modern, I think, anti-tank,
Modern anti-tank, yeah.
One of the longer lists we're going to be showing when eventually the patch list gets posted is just the general bug fix list.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And we've gleaned a lot of these from, it doesn't matter if it's Twitch or Civ Fanatics, Reddit, the Steam forums, just all over the place. We've been just gathering. The fans have been great with like providing saves for these little unique one-offs that that we're seeing in the wild. And so there's a ton of them. But one point of pride, because it irritated the engineering lead so badly, was the way that aircraft and aircraft carriers interacted with each other, or not interacted with each other properly. So they're no longer being pulled behind them in the water by a leash of sorts. They're actually traveling properly. Rebasing's working properly. Line of sight from aircraft is working properly. There's a lot of things with aircraft in general that has been improved and updated, which is great. There was a funny bug, not funny, but that occurred when sea level rise would happen. So sea level rise generally
it just did.
Yeah, it'll typically damage, destroy a district, But the problem was that there was a bug where it assumed that there was only one district of each type. Neighborhoods is obviously not one of those types.
Sure, yeah.
So we'd have players where a sea level would rise, the neighborhood in the water that should have been the district that got burned down was like, the game thought, well, this is okay, I'm going to pick a random one over here instead. So the sea level rise would happen, the neighborhood in the water is perfectly fine, this one over here bursts into flame.
Yeah.
So a lot of little things like that.
They were cyclically linked.
Yes, yeah. So we appreciate all of the updates that we've been getting from our fans. We're pretty much all over the forums all the time. We appreciate it.
Right.
We've had a lot of questions on when the patch notes are going up. So we're doing the live stream now. We are still working through a couple last-minute things, mainly related to we don't want to release patches anymore, short of having all of our platforms ready to release.
All in sync, yeah.
Yeah, it's never any fun when the PC patch gets released. Mac is struggling behind, Linux is waiting, and so everything's going out at the same time. We want to make sure everything's working.
Right.
And our particular rock in our shoe, I should say, this time around has been RNG hasn't been as cooperative as it has been in the past. So we're working through some last-minute things where in a multiplayer game, 6 of the hosts send their warrior to the right, and the 7th host sends it to the left on the same order. So stay tuned. This will be dropping shortly, as will the patch notes. But just watch our social channels so you can keep an eye on when that will exactly happen.
Soon. I'm out of athletes here. Let's queue up some more.
Yeah. You have so many athletes.
Well, I need it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh wow, yeah.
I am staying
Harold is
ahead, but
chasing
it's because all of my cities are doing it. But he's doing a good job, Norway. Yeah. And then here, she's actually taking the lead, which is not good. So let's go trade. How much is she leading by? 1,000. Let's play it safe.
We need like a Carl training montage where it's just like oceans of training athletes in sinister dark gyms.
That'd be great, yeah.
Let's play it safe. We want the victory here.
I think one of the...
and I don't need gold after I've won.
Yeah, that's true. One of the other changes I think we've made for the patch as well, if I'm remembering right, is the Send Aid project. will actually also provide gold for the target now. As well.
Yes.
It used to be kind of just like, yeah, we're sending aid, but it didn't actually, like it didn't notify the other player, didn't really give them anything. But now, you know, whether you give it to them in a deal or, you know, spend your production to kind of send it their way through your cities, you know, the other player is going to benefit, which we thought was a better balance.
The military aid request works the same way, doesn't it? It uses the same mechanic where the player actually receives something, so it's not just this abstract layer of project.
Totally.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
think we mentioned it.
Yeah, we haven't. That's a new, so much like the aid request that can happen in response to natural disasters,
Like
there's a
this one.
new military aid request that you can spend favor to, you know, call the World Congress and deliberate. And how it is triggered is if someone declares war on you and you have a lot of grievances against them. So you're kind of like going to the World Congress and saying like, hey, like this person's really, you know, beating me up, or like this is not a fair situation. So everybody can decide, yeah, let's come to your aid and send you money. The theory being that you're, you know, sending, you know, troops and military supplies or whatever to for this sort of like global casus belli almost.
Right. And that's worth diplomatic victory points.
Right. So by jumping in to help, you know, if you're the leader, you get those 2 victory points as well. Have you found the? Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay, so seasteads will give us a big victory point,
2 turns on that.
and then we
0
got.
turns on this.
Oh,
And we are in the lead.
close.
We are so close. And this just goes to show like how much work we've done on the diplomatic victory.
Yeah.
There's so many sources of points, which you still have to wait a little bit. Like they don't come so fast. I'm in information era when I'm going to win here. But there's a lot more sources of points. Aid requests, those still happen at varying rates depending on your disaster setting, things like that. The military aid request happens depending on how much warmongering and chaos is in the
Depending on
game.
the leaders, the AI,
Exactly.
components, formation. Yeah.
And I did lose points earlier, which took away from my progress instead of winning them. But there are a lot of ways that you can win, and it's less of a waiting around game.
Yeah.
You have to actually spend your favor on those early votes. You can't just bank it all
You
for
got
the
to
end.
invest throughout
You
the whole
have to
game
invest.
and plan ahead. Yeah.
And then you have to work towards these competitions, all of them, including World Games and World's Fair and things like that.
Yeah.
It's way more active. It feels pretty good. It's a lot of fun.
And how many points do you need?
20.
What are we down to?
20
What are
points.
you down to?
Oh, I need 3
that-
still.
3.
I'm at
left.
3, but this is 2. This is 1.
And
Okay.
And then
Seasteads is one.
Seasteads is 1. And then again, I can get up to 5 points from the session that's going to happen in 8 turns, and I
you've
have
got
I
a
have
lot of favor.
1,500 favor
Banking
to
his favor.
spend.
Oh, we got the A
So there's the
request.
2. There's the 2
Awesome.
points. We're gonna win it. We're gonna get it.
1 turn.
Yeah, I get 50 favor every 2 turns
With
from
the
that.
power of seasteads, everybody will acknowledge us as the world leader. But just in case.
Just in case.
And to show off.
All the athletes.
Get all the athletes.
See, these were doing send aid requests. Even with cities doing send aid requests, the AI still pulled ahead of me.
Yeah.
They're pretty aggressive about it themselves. They understand that that's how they win. Although I won more votes than they did, so I'm going to win the game, and I got the wonders. Which the 4 points from
Statue of
Statue of Liberty is no joke.
Yeah, that's a very important wonder for the victory now.
There's seven wonder points total in the game now, including Patala Palace, which is
and
one.
Mahabodhi, yeah. All the athletes.
Carl, we have 7 minutes. You have to pull it off in 7 minutes.
I think I'm going to pull it off in 1 turn.
Yay.
I think he's got it.
Oh, I should have put the railroad there on the district. That was a mistake.
Unacceptable. Carl.
Next turn.
Now you're gonna lose.
Next turn, I'll do it. And these
hear some rock
tooltips.
going on
There's some rock bands going off. These tooltips will tell you how many points you gained or lost.
Right.
And pay attention to those if you are trying to get that, because it is important to notice, whether based on how the vote went, whether you gained or lost the points, since you can gain so many or lose so many.
Right.
Carl, do we have any new defenses against rock bands in the game?
There are,
We have a
yeah.
policy, yeah.
Oh,
I just won.
Victory!
Just won. I can go to 1 more turn mode. Let's let this play out.
Times when you stood against aggression. You have always sought cooperation.
Not Yalta.
You did not do this merely to brighten your own glory, but because dignity belongs to each of us. so doing, you have proved that your ancient and eternal commitment to a shared peace will be the foundation of the world of tomorrow.
Yay!
Huzzah!
Huzzah. We have won a diplomatic victory. Just one more turn. There is a way to defend against rock bands. We noticed that there was nothing you could do. If they were sending rock bands into your territory, there was no way to stop them.
Some players wanted to close their borders,
Right.
sort of thing, or kick them out,
there's
or stomp them.
There's lots of things that you can do with rock bands too. You can revive dead religions. You can just straight win a religious victory with rock bands.
You can flip the indie rock.
There's the indie rock and flip cities, which I think we made an adjustment to that. I don't quite remember.
I don't remember either.
But where is it? Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Do I have it? No, it's not equipped. There is a policy.
Yeah, it's in the notes here. I'm gonna check.
There's a policy that forces musicians
Music
to leave
censorship.
your territory.
Yes.
Music censorship.
I believe it.
Did I not pick
So-
that one up?
So what it does is rock bands from other players may not enter your territory, but all your cities with 10 or more population get -1 amenity.
Ah, okay.
I don't think I think it was in the information era. Did you not pick up? Maybe it's on one of the government ones. It's not one of those.
Twitch says it's the top left green one.
Oh, it's a green
Oh, it's-
one. I was looking at wild
Forgot
card.
it was diplomatic.
Thank you, chat. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was thinking because I was confusing it with the one
assuming-
that's
yeah.
this one. I think all
The
of
other-
your
yeah,
promotions.
Hallyu, which
Music
is Korean
censorship.
wave.
Thank you, chat. Rock bands from other players may not enter your territory. -1 amenity. Like
There it is.
So yeah, you can equip this, and it prevents rock bands from entering. So if you know that somebody's getting close to victory, or if you know that somebody is sending indie rock or religious rock units against you, you can equip
thank
this to stop it. Right.
We will have no fun, no rock and roll, no loud music.
So with that, we're going to bring this session to a close. I do want to say thank you to everybody who's watching, and I also want to reaffirm that we are not done. There is some really cool stuff coming up. Can't talk about it yet. We'll be able to talk about it soon. So just keep watch, visit the social channels, stay tuned, find us on the forums and the sites, and we'll see you with the next live stream.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.